As long as we don't mind.
I don't mind you eat.
There you go.
I do not mind one bit. All right. So it's fun to see who runs away. Okay. There's some folks in there. If you want to participate, now is the time. If there's somebody who you know that was in the room that maybe left to go back to their office, whatever, text, phone a friend, let them know, and we're gonna get started. Get your butt back in. Get your butt back in here. That's right. Okay. So, my name is Joe. Joe Cipollini. My very fancy slide went away. That's the only slide. I have a lot of PowerPoint presentations on different classes, different types of material. And I was like thinking about this and I said, you know what? I actually resent them anyway. I hate using slides. So we're just going to get after it. We're just going to talk about conversion. Specifically, we're going to talk about the structure of conversion in your database and in your funnel. And we're going to talk about skills that are required. And when I say we're going to talk about them, I literally mean that at least 4 of you are going to be up here role playing. And 1 of you is going to be doing it in the next 5 minutes.
You brought sexy back, Chris.
There it is. So if you wanted to escape, it's too late. Now I know you're already here. So these people don't know as they come back, and you do know, so you can't leave. That is me on stage with Collective Genius. I'm a facilitator and educator for a group called the Collective Genius, which is a group, it's a high-level mastermind for real estate investors doing more than $10 million in gross revenue. And I specifically work in sales and conversion with these CEOs of large investment groups. It's one of the things that is sort of sneaky underneath the word business coach. I also actually was the chief sales officer and left that role to become the chief learning officer. And I run our internal and external education with Integrity First and nationwide with our sales training. I am an investor both in real estate and in market centers. So David mentioned that I was an investor in market centers, but it's tax day in case you forgot. And it's a great day to own real estate. And then my most important I am an agent. I maybe sold 2 houses last year, so don't even call me for those. But you can call me for referrals to other people. I'll give you the best ones. And then my most important job is as a father. It's also where being in sales, language, and negotiation skills is tested by far the most. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and we're currently in mid negotiations on whether buying a horse. So I'm losing.
I was gonna say.
And which means I'm gonna own a horse this year. So who's read the book Shift? Who's read the book Shift? It is a great time to dust that book off. How does the market look in 2025 compared to 2024? Does it look the same? Did I hear like heavy sighs? Like the mortgage guy's like, best rate ever to worst rate ever, right? Like, did it shift? So if the market is adjusting, this is a time, a couple of things to think about here. Number one, this is a time to lean into education and being the best. 2 things I think you could do that would completely change the trajectory of 2025 for yourself. Number one is be prepared from a skill set and mindset perspective. And number 2 is to take massive action. This is going to be a market that's differentiated between those who are willing to execute and those who are not, which is the other reason we're going to role play. Because if you are scared to role play amongst your friends, then when you're out in the wild and you come across a consumer, that is not where you want to practice. Okay? And so the 2 things that you can do is number 1, learn and prepare your mindset and skill set. And number 2 is execute. And when I say execute, I mean, I walked into Justin Lepisco's, or I walked by it, I looked at the glass, and I saw on his board all of his schedule of his activities. I saw you guys in there doing lead generation and like getting after some work there. Like, if you want the results this year, it is not going to be the year where the only qualification you need is pulse. And that definitely was the only qualification you needed in 2022. Right? So like real talk is we are here to make money. I am on an absolute warpath to protect your income and to protect real estate agents because my worst fear is that you're here for entertainment and you're like, oh, I'm going to class today. And you're going to leave and be the same person that you were when you came in. And the problem is that staying the same means losing. Okay? So we're not going to do that. Do we agree that we're not going to do that? Okay.
Not gonna do that.
Cool. So I need 2 volunteers immediately. Who wants to get up? We got 1. Who knows him not so well? You don't know him that well. You're going to.
Kenny's bringing other people into the shenanigans now.
That was a trick.
Yeah.
Know him? Yeah. He's a stranger. Perfect. Okay. So what I'd like the 2 of you to do, first of all, shake hands and introduce yourselves.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, we have Kenny and Monique. Perfect. I would like the 2 of you to stand back to back, like I'm about to ask you to have a an old Western, yeah, like. Okay, so Monique, we're gonna ask some questions. Hi, Drew. We're gonna ask some questions. Kenny, how long have you been a real estate agent?
6 months?
Perfect. Monique, how long have you been a real estate agent? Perfect. I love this. Okay. No, you were in exactly the place you need to be. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have, poor Monique, she didn't even volunteer first. We're gonna have Monique be our interviewee, and Kenny, you're gonna be the interviewer, okay? And you have 1 job, only 1. I'm gonna set a timer for 3 minutes, and your only job is to get to know Monique. So hold tight, pull my timer out, and that is it. There's no other rule other than I'd like you to get to know her, okay? All,
You're on the phone, Kenny.
that's exactly right. Exclusively on that. Okay, ready, set, go.
Good, how are you? New York,
Me too. From the east side, what about you?
Orange County, Westchester County.
Okay, we go to high school.
That's a different question. I went into high school in Holland, in Europe.
Oh, okay, so your family in the military?
No, my family's actually still there. I met my husband and my now husband in 1980 something. I will go there. Got married about 25 years ago and moved to the country here.
I can move it now.
That's where I was born.
Also, you were born in Holland, then were raised in New York, back to Holland, high school?
I was born in Holland, was raised in Holland, came here as an exchange student a long time ago. Met my now husband and moved here.
Okay, and then so you moved here from New York, correct?
And then I moved here from you. Yes.
Okay, where do you stay here?
At Harrisburg?
Do you own a home out here?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome. Let's become a realtor.
Part-time realtor for now because I wanted extra income. And it's gonna give me flexibility. I hope to do both for a while.
What other job do you have?
I am a marketing content writer for IT companies.
Awesome. How long have you been doing that?
7 years.
Did you have to go to college for that?
No, I went to college for business.
I'm sure. How much did you go to?
I went in Amsterdam.
Oh, wow, geez, awesome. Okay. You have family, like kids?
I have a husband who has 2 kids and we have a son together.
Awesome. How's your son?
He is 19. He just started at NC.
Awesome, congratulations. Do you know what he's studying?
It depends on the day that you ask him.
Oh, his grades.
As far as I know, okay. College, you're either passing or you're not, so you're on it.
And then your husband's kids, are they older?
Yeah, they're older.
Do they stay here in Pennsylvania?
You know, one of them is still in New York and the other one is in Phoenix, Arizona.
Awesome. And where's your husband from?
He's from New York.
Okay, so you met him out there in Orange County, you said?
Yeah,
Awesome, awesome. You guys have any pets, dogs, cats?
no, none of that.
I'm not allergic.
No, but we used to have a bit of obligatory fish and bird and whatever that little crab thing was that they gave.
Hermit crab.
Those, yeah. Out of those.
No,
That was it.
What do you and your husband like to do for fun?
We like to hike, I like to play pickleball, I like to cook.
So you cook for your husband every day?
Well, yeah, I suppose.
All right, that was 3 minutes.
All right, cool, cool.
Okay,
Good job.
they did a great job. Can we get a round of applause? First of all, Kenny, I would hire you. Great, like, I'll just tell you. I do that exercise. Actually, that's actually an exercise I make every new applicant for our organization do on the spot with 0 warning. I bring in one of our existing employees and we play the get to know you game. And it's a great test of natural curiosity. Kenny was asking if people were allergic to pets within 2 minutes. This is like, normally it doesn't go that well. So you did a really, really fantastic job. That is awesome. Okay, let's get 3 observations. So when you give an observation, I want you to give one thing that you noticed that was like really cool to see, and then maybe something that was like, and also this could have been done differently, which again, like 11 out of 10 for not knowing what you were getting into. Yeah.
I think probably when you had the task of 3 minutes, it seems like an eternity, but once you get talking, it flows easier. But this is like 10x what most people do, so you don't get to know more than the surface level. As far as like opportunity, maybe just more cohesiveness instead of like just jumping like, you know, from topic to topic. But I understand he's under the gun and
100%.
yeah.
We did Holland's pet and like, I don't know where we are, but I like it. Okay, cool. Let's get another 1 or 2. Yeah.
I liked how you repeated back oftentimes what she said about her husband and, oh, so your husband, and then you went to the next thing.
It'll probably help you remember it too. Yeah.
Opportunity that all of us, open-ended questions instead of yes or no questions. Like, tell me about your pets, not do you have pets?
Yeah. Oh, you're allergic.
That way it's not so question and answer, right? Like it's more conversation.
Very cool. Let's get one more from this side of the room.
Richard?
Answered every statement with a question.
Yeah.
Sort of like passing the baton back and forth.
Yeah. Great observation. So what was his absolute favorite filler word?
Awesome.
Was. And are you like, when you communicate, how do you like to communicate with people?
What do you mean?
Like what makes you feel the most connected to people when you're communicating with them?
I guess when I'm kind of like able to teach them something, like
Okay.
explain something that I'm somewhat knowledgeable about,
Okay.
being comfortable.
Would you rather talk to somebody on the phone or sit with them for a coffee or a drink? Okay, did anybody, like, I made them stand back to back and he immediately was like.
He's trying to get around there.
So I was like, he really wants to connect with her. You could feel that. So we're gonna kind of, we're gonna dissect a little bit of what we just watched without, you guys didn't know it, but you were teeing up what we're gonna talk about in a really, really great way. And we're actually gonna do that again at the end using a little bit of a framework that's going to allow the next group to be quite easier. Although Kenny set a really good bar. So again, another round of applause for your job. So is he doing role play?
Yeah, we do.
He's in pro code PC.
Great.
All goes Chris.
No. I bring people in for interviews. They've been in sales, and I say get to know somebody, and you know what they do? They talk about themselves for like 30 to 40% of the get to know you, and I'm just like, like that's just not going to work. And you kept yourself out of the conversation, other than to create some cohesiveness on location, which is good. So one of the Cialdini principles of likeness, which is that people want to be in, they are easily influenced and want to be in a relationship with people who have similarities to them. And so you immediately did that early on, which you didn't know, but was like a super good ninja trick to have her open up for. It was good. Anyway, we're going to go back to the book shift.
High quality markers.
I was like testing them up here. Black. These green works.
Nope.
Yeah.
You be pressing
Oh,
hard during class.
Oh, he like left all these like dry ones.
Yeah, you know.
All right. So
Protect my client.
yeah. All right. We're gonna do this for right now. So Again, I brought 0 slides, so you have to do some work. Make sure that you have pen and paper or ready to take notes on your, all right, Steve, make sure that you're ready to take notes, either on paper or on your computer. Thank you.
Thank Patrick.
Okay. Ready, set, go. At the top of any business, I don't care if you're selling widgets or houses or whatever. At the top, you need to capture leads. So in the ship book,
Lefty.
we're gonna all learn to love that down. At the top of the sales funnel for your business, you need to capture leads. But good news for you is my talk is on conversion, so we don't talk about capture today. Capture is the list of things. I was doing a call in Seckman's office earlier, and it's the list of all the activities that you need to be doing on a regular basis. Good example would be open houses, door knocking, calling your sphere, those types of things, right? Who was working under Google or SEO?
Ruth.
Right? Yeah, like capture. We want to meet people. So capturing is adding people to your database that are not currently in it or starting to create relationships there. Okay? But again, that's not today's talk. So you need to make a decision on how you're going to define a lead. I think that one of the things that happens in a lot of people's businesses, I was going to say organizations, but whether you're an organization of 1 or an organization of 30, is you have to decide what is a lead. What are you looking for? What are the 2 types of leads that as real estate agents we typically want to zero in on? That's
Buyers and sellers.
That is what we were looking at. Buyers and sellers. Then we go there, which is qualified, right? So when you said one of your words was motivated, what was the other one? Qualified. Perfect. Right. So then we're actually getting into, because like, I don't know if I meet somebody at an open house and I'm like, hey, I'm Joe, welcome to the open house. Are you motivated? Well, right. That's like walking up to somebody at the bar and being like, hey, you're kind of cute, wondering what you're doing in 30 years because I'm single, right? So capture is literally just, we want to know what a lead looks like, buyer or seller. What does a buyer want?
House buy.
To buy a house. What does a seller want?
Get rid of ones.
Great. When?
Depends.
Correct. Now or ever. And you make a decision on what that looks like, and you're going to treat them accordingly. Treating somebody who wants to sell their home ever, meaning like 6 years from now when Billy graduates from high school, and then you call them every 30 days for the next 6 years, and you're like, hey, is now the time? That's not going to be a really great experience for either of you, right? So what we're going to figure out is that there's another stage that is to connect. So connect is really where conversion happens. That's where the money is made. Like businesses will live or die on the amount of leads that they get. But if you get plenty of leads and never convert any of them, you're still broke. And conversion is what happens when you take, might be better. Okay, that's a good little peach one.
That's Chris's.
Hey now.
All right. Not saying anything else.
This conversation's gonna go in a much different direction.
Well, I'll maybe.
Just try it.
I'll think about it.
Do a test.
All right.
Let's just buy a Sharpie.
I know, man.
There's a
Marker. Okay. Oh yeah. Way better. Okay. I told you we'd make money, right? So that's at the end. So we connect with people, and we're going to go through what connection looks like. And we're actually, connection is, again, conversion. That is, we're taking leads up here. We are determining whether they are qualified, as Chris was saying, and then we are moving them into buckets and moving them through the sales funnel, where eventually we'll have the opportunity where we've earned the right from a relationship perspective, which is the connection. We've earned the right to close with them. Anybody ever have the experience where you've done a pretty good job, you thought, of connecting with people, and then their Facebook tells you that you didn't actually do as good of a job because they're standing in front of their new house with a different realtor? Okay. So That is the difference between connecting where we earn the right to close and we stay positioned in front of them for the close at all times versus making a friend. And we'll talk about the difference, right? Because later in the sales process, once you've developed a relationship, you've connected with them, you know who they are, what they want, when they might want it, how they would want it to happen, then you can stay in a relationship with them where you earn, and as if anybody's ever heard Gary say this, you earn mind share now, mind share this, right? For what later? Good, we're gonna learn market share. Mind share now for market share later. So you need to be positioned, Google calls this micro moments. You need to be positioned so that at the moment when the consumer does decide that they're going to make that move, that there is nobody else that they would allow to be in that position other than you, with the exception of like random sometimes, right? We're going to spend a lot of time today talking about what happens here. And there's another place where leads go to die, and also where money goes to die. Who uses command regularly? Good. You have a fighting chance. Because, good Lord. I'm going to Amazon you guys a box of
Right red.
somebody. Okay. So there's another place. So I said, we're going to connect with people on a human level, and we're going to find out whether they want to do business now or ever. Now we move through the funnel. Why are open houses such a hot item for real estate agents?
People are raising their hand.
Yeah, yes, but there's something critical about it. What was that?
They're raising their hand.
They're raising their hand, and their time horizon is more urgent. How do we know? Because they physically drove to a house, right? And so their distance between capture and close can be much shorter and much more controlled. We know that they are they're seeking to be right next to the inventory. They want to be there, as opposed to people like in your database when you're doing your DTD2 calls, your forward calls, whatever you're calling it, power base. When you're doing those calls, and those people are probably somewhere out here, and at some point they're going to be just as hot as the person who's standing at the open house, but they aren't today. And the game then is to cultivate them at a pace and speed with conversations that feel so good that when that moment happens, they're not going anywhere else. Make sense? So now or ever. And we're going to talk about the framework that allows you to know where your customers are, your potential customers are. And specifically, right, in relation to the people that are in your sphere, if you show up to everybody who's in your sphere and you talk to them like they are actually a lead, that's a miss. Because they're just people. And we don't know whether they're a lead until we decide whether they are, what were those two things? A buyer or seller, right? And then we can start to make some qualified decisions, which is what Chris was talking about, where it's like motivation. Because if somebody's just in your sphere, living their day-to-day life, little Billy's got 6 years left, and they're not moving anywhere, they're totally happy, not out of space, not getting a divorce, nobody died, everything looks good, right? They're just in cultivation mode until something happens where the need changes, and then they move to a qualified lead, and now we are actually having a business conversation. Up until then, all right.
All these definitely
It's like a
right.
graveyard of
That's the highlight scene.
pens here.
This is from Miles.
Yeah.
They sent you an invoice. Oh, just put on that.
I know. This is from you?
Yeah.
They work?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate your sacrifice. Okay, so let's talk about what this framework looks like. So it's cool because Kenny was doing some of these, whether he knew it or not. And I'm going to give you the framework of the way to introduce a sales conversation that doesn't feel like a sales conversation. You guys want to have that? Perfect. Okay. This is not in any Keller Williams material, although you're going to find some Keller Williams material baked right in the middle. Number one is we want to set expectations. Now, if you're doing like a database call, this might be something as simple as setting an agenda and a timeline for the conversation that we're about to have. right? Literally. Hey, David, it's Joe. I was going through my database and your name popped up and I just could not resist giving you a call. Do you have 4 minutes for me today?
Sure, what's going on, Joe?
Awesome, man. Right? So it's just like super quick. I'm giving him a little bit of a timeline so he has an expectation. If I ask for 4 and I use 11, guess what I just did?
Under delivered.
I over delivered, and it's going to annoy the crap out of you because I just broke the slight little promise, that upfront promise that we made that I was only going to borrow 4 of your minutes. Okay. So setting a little bit of an agenda. One of the things that happens is that trust is created when we do what we said we were going to do. And so, as interesting as this sounds, giving bad news and being really direct about it, or giving any news with any clear expectations and then delivering on that, no matter how much it sucks or doesn't suck, actually creates trust. If I'm like, we're about to do something and it's going to suck. She's like, do you see what she did? She's like, right? At least I know.
That means good though in today's kids kids lingo.
That's true, probably. So setting those expectations, and that's agenda and timeline. Those are the 2 pieces of that we want to set. Now, if you're in any kind of conversation with somebody, whether they're in your database already or not in your database yet, anytime you're having a conversation that could lead to a business conversation, I want you to set really good expectations. I like to think of it like ground rules. And I want to set ground rules in one direction from me to you, and then I want to ask what your expectations are, right? So, great way to do that. David, I think of myself as your real estate agent right now and forever into the future. And I want to know, what do you expect from me as your real estate?
Just be there when I need somebody. I've been thinking about buying another rental in the next couple of years, but right now I can't think of anything, but I always appreciate the support.
That's cool. And when you said that, like to be there as support whenever you need anything, if I was to ask you, real estate aside, what is something that you need right now to make your life easier or better? Is there anything you can think of?
I just know how the market's going, when's a good opportunity to buy, and so forth.
Okay. What would that look like, and how often do you want?
Probably just an email that I could just read probably once every month or 2 would be just fine.
Okay. So if I put you on my email list and I promise no spam, no junk, no funny videos of me in a bunny suit, if I send you just market information, maybe every other month or so, is there any reason why that would let you down, or any reason why that would be a problem?
I don't think so.
Are you going to unsubscribe from my list?
Probably not.
Okay. Like, what would it take for it to be a definitely not? I can't wait to see it.
Just valuable content.
Like, do I have really good understanding of what he wants from me? And how I set an expectation at the beginning of that call. By the way, brownie points if anybody's bold enough to use the script that I just did. I think of myself as your real estate agent for life. What expectation did I just create? Okay. So there's another, like you guys didn't catch this probably. There's a guy named Robert Cialdini. I said one of Cialdini's principles of likeness, and you won on that. Okay. But one of the other ones is reciprocity. It's extremely powerful. So I just created a relationship here with reciprocity in the first 25 seconds of our conversation, where I set an expectation that I'm going to show up as your real estate agent for life. You just got to tell me what the job description looks like, which then you can do, because you can't deliver on jobs that you don't know. So I just say,
it's almost like a subtle tie-in that, like, because you're going to do something I want you to do, that reinforces that you are my real estate agent.
100%. Because then when I ask you what it takes to be that, I had a soccer game last night at Yellow Breaches, scored a goal, just saying. So when I do that, I create that reciprocity relationship, and then I double down on reciprocity because I ask him what value I can give to him. You know what happens when I then deliver value? Like, I don't know, a bi-monthly market piece of information that takes me approximately like 0.4 seconds in command. Now what I'm doing is I'm delivering on that. I am meeting his expectations. It's doubling down on trust, and it's creating reciprocity. That every time I do the thing that we agreed we were going to do, he feels more and more and more and more and more tied to me as his relationship. Make sense? This is like powerful stuff. Small, but powerful. I can't fix it if you don't do the work, but I can definitely tell you how to do better results. Okay, so number one is we set expectations. Number two, and this is where we're going to spend the majority of the time, is we need to build trust. Conversion is a trust game. You might want to write that down. Conversion is a trust game. What is trust?
So you're gonna do?
That was part of it. You listened. I like it. What else? What is trust?
Confidence in your ability.
I like that answer. That is definitely like a capability that I trust that you can do it. Yeah. What else?
Knowing someone's gonna maintain the standards that they do day in and day out.
Like that? Yep. Yep. Doing what you said you were going to do is a big piece of that. What else?
A belief in another individual that they are going to do what they are telling you they're going.
Belief is really good. Okay, so great answers. Actually, all of those answers are going to play into this, and you're going to see how it starts to happen. So I'm going to tell you, trust is created by three things. That's actually borrowed from Phil Jones. Trust is created from three things. Number one is curiosity. So it's weird. I can actually create a trusting relationship with you by asking you a bunch of questions. Why?
Shows you have interest.
That's right. And I start to believe, which is like the word believe, I start to believe that if you ask me these questions, you might be equipped to do something with those answers to help me. Belief. So number one is curiosity. Number two is empathy. I'm going to give you the most complicated definition you've ever heard, but it's actually really simple. Empathy is not sympathy, which is feeling other people's feelings for them. Empathy is I care about what the people I care about care about. I'm sorry. I care about the things the people that I care about care about. Everybody follow that? So, if I ask you questions with curiosity, but then I'm like, those are great answers. She's like, wait a second, we were getting somewhere, and now you're gone. Now we're done. But if I'm like, okay, so you shared this thing, right? I appreciate that you shared that with me. How's that impacting? What's significant about that? And I start to really understand what she cares about within those things. That's taking curiosity to a tactical level that you can do something with. Empathy, in the trust triangle, empathy is potentially the more tricky one to do, and I'm going to give you some strategies on actually how to do it, but it's also one of the most powerful. Because when people feel cared about, it goes back to that reciprocity, is that they will trust you exponentially more, and they're actually willing to do things for you. Anybody want people to refer you when you're not in the room? Be that person. So let's go back to trust. Curiosity, empathy. The third one, be you, authenticity. So curiosity, empathy, and authenticity make up the trust triangle. Who uses scripts? Ryan. I like that answer a lot more than her. She's like, yeah, you guys crush it, right? And you take those scripts on until to the point where they become ingrained, right? It's different. So trying a script more relevant. Yeah. What does that mean?
It doesn't flow for me. It's not an organic conversation.
Okay. You have two choices. Stop. Yeah, really good. So you can choose one of those two, but staying in the middle where it's like not really you, not authentic, and not actually getting towards a better level of engagement with the people, that's a no man's land. So authenticity is when you show up authentically as you. You're not lying, cheating, stealing, right? You're being like, follow the Y4C2Ts, please. When you're doing that and living that life authentically, then you're good. So again, curiosity, empathy, and authenticity, the three pieces of trust. So let's talk about tactically how that works. So in building trust, we want to answer two questions of our customers or prospects or whatever it is that we're calling them up here at Capture. And I'm going to talk about how it fits into the shift picture of a second. The six things we need to learn. Ready? You learned them in second grade. Who?
But where,
Okay. Now we're gonna do a memory recall test. Kenny asked which ones of those. All of them.
Where?
All of them. He did a pretty darn good job.
Except
How?
How?
Except how.
Right.
Why?
He kind of got a little bit of why, smidge. He asked a version of why as a qualifier. He did great at who, right? Lived in where a lot. Got to when. What was the when? And he clarified it too. When? So when did you move here? When were you in Holland? Right? Like all of that. So those 6 connecting questions are who, what, when, where, how, and why. I want you to write those across a list horizontally. So something like this. Who, what, when, where, how, why. No, it's fine. I wanted you to write it however you wanted it, but now I want you to do this. Okay. Now this is a game that I want you to play. I want you to go 6 across and 3 deep. If you ask an 18-question matrix of questions in a conversation, it will feel like the most amazing conversation to the other person. So if you want to get out of script purgatory, this is an amazing strategy. Watch when you do this with somebody on a phone call. I'm going to do it right now. Okay. Hi. Okay, so I'm Joe, right? I don't know, what's your name?
Shoka.
Oh my gosh, all right. Say it again for me, please.
Shoka.
Shoka?
Yes.
Okay. What brings you here?
I scan the file.
And what made you stay?
The class.
Okay, all right. What were you hoping to get out of the class?
Just trying to see what you offer.
Okay.
I have no.
I'm not selling
expectation.
anything, sorry.
No, I wasn't expecting you to sign it.
Okay, good. So how long have you been in real estate?
This is my 3rd year.
Your 3rd year, okay. What were you doing before that?
I was doing communications work.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you see your career looking like? Like, how long do you want to stay in real estate? Like most real estate.
Forever and ever.
And where do you do most of your business?
Anywhere in Central PA.
Okay, cool. Like, what's your favorite of all the places that you do business?
Or, Hill.
Okay, what's significant about those locations?
I just like it. So for Carlisle is where I live, so it's close for me. Harrisburg is a cool city. I do a lot of things there and I like it. And Capitol is the first place I lived when I moved to PA.
So all the places that you've been familiar with, and then you just like start to go deeper on your business there, is that how it works?
Well, I don't pick location.
Okay. Okay, it just accidentally happens because.
Yes, my client wants to
Got it.
buy there, yeah.
Why real estate in general?
The free schedule.
How's that working for you?
Not very great. But it's okay. I
Yeah.
like it. It helps with my mental health.
Okay. What is your favorite thing about real estate?
Being able to make friends and actually it's I don't take this lightly. It feels almost an honor to help someone buy or sell a house because it's probably one of the biggest decisions they can make in life, and being part of that. I feel like it makes me connect deeper with people that way.
That's really powerful. What would you tell somebody who was thinking of it?
I would ask why they wanted to put in hard work, because they gotta be putting more work than I do to be successful. So.
Nobody's good as Shoka.
Okay. How do we do? Who owned that conversation?
You did.
You did.
She owned the content. I own the agenda. That was great. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. You didn't know you were volunteering. I mean, they actually raised their hand. You didn't get that chance. Okay. So all we were doing there, and if you heard what I was doing, was I was just like chipping my way across the 6 and down the 3 at each of those, navigating as she gave me answers and what I could work with there. But like you can practice that. So when you guys are doing role play, that is a really, really great role play exercise. And it's so great, we're going to do it now. So what I mean by that is, so we call that going 3D. So when you ask one of the 6 connected questions, the first answer you get is really only like the tip of the iceberg of the answer. And so like, for example, her third answer to my why question was talking about honor, the honor that it is to serve people and help them, as opposed to the surface level answer, which was freedom of schedule. You get the difference? Do you think that the honor of serving people is more or less emotionally impactful to her than freedom of schedule? You guys see the difference there? So with your customers, it's the same thing. And oftentimes we don't stay in that conversation nearly long enough. It can be a little awkward, especially if it's like, if the customer's like, dude, this is an interrogation. But that goes back to step number 1, which is, hey, if I'm going to be your real estate agent, or if there's any chance that I'm going to be able to serve you at a good level, I need to know what's going on in your world. So is it okay if I ask you some questions to help you get a little bit of an understanding? Would that be okay? And then they say, yeah, sure. And now you've got expectations and permission, and you can move forward. The 2 questions that I want you to focus on asking or answering at the step 2 of building trust is, who are they and what do they want? If you can answer those 2 questions from a human fundamental level, you can serve them. Who are they and what do they want? And as you move down the sales funnel with people, if you can answer those 2 questions first, that earns you the right, because as long as you can position yourself next to or in the vicinity of the thing they want, you can do business with them. If you don't know what they want, can you serve them? No, you don't know what to sell them. Do they want a widget or a house? I don't know. I didn't ask. Right? Okay, so we're going to do the 18 exercise. We're going to, not long, just an example. So the example is going to be, I want you to pick like a couple of the 6 connecting questions, right? And I want you to practice hearing the answer and asking another version of the same type of question. So if you ask a who question, the second version needs to be another who question, right? So who's impacted by the fact that you're in real estate? Who's that?
My wife is here.
Yeah? Okay. And what did they think of it?
They like that I'm home a whole lot.
Okay. How does that impact them?
Lots more FaceTime.
Yeah.
You know, I was working 10-hour days and hardly saw them. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge impact.
Yeah.
Anybody else that's impacted?
well, that's it.
Yeah. How about your clients?
Oh, yeah, my
Yeah. Who were they? You don't know yet.
Still working.
Still starting.
Still
How
starting.
many,
Yeah, still starting.
how many of the clients do you have, or do you not, have you not done any deals?
Actually, I have 2 active.
2 active.
deals right now.
Like, I don't know where I am, 8, 9, right? Like, you can just stay in those columns of questions until you have enough information to do something. You guys see that?
Yep.
Cool. So just partner up real quick. We're going to practice doing one round. I want you to do 2 of the 6 connecting questions and see if you can go 3 deep. And then I want to hear how that goes.
Yeah, kids, how old are
Oh, we have black football, but baskets for another one right now. And, you know, so it's not really- I'm not sure, just fixing the pool. Oh, yeah,
You gonna do that?
I should have already. There's a scene. Kids are. Yeah. Went a different direction than I thought you know. I was like, I like the way you put it. Also, no, it's just sort of my family. So I am for I don't. I'm good with the partnership. Honestly, we're deciding that job is not something to do. But so much. It was. I think we're my training done. For codes and nobody so. Schedule or like. My last Oh, that was your first year. Buy your own house. Yeah, I was kind of happy that I got to be like client. So that's great because right now I got messing up somebody else. How that's how you very Great. Yeah, she definitely supports owner stuff like that. For example, my Christmas gift was a.
All right. You can tell like the high. Okay, cool. I want to hear from the people who were not asking the questions. What was your experience as you were answering the questions? Give me like 3 people.
I felt really comfortable talking. When she asked me a question, there was like more to it, so she kept digging deeper. Her question was like the why question.
You two are gonna be besties by the end.
She just kept digging deep, and it just kind of just flowed real naturally.
That's awesome.
So very organic. Just a normal.
Yeah.
Felt like someone else was taking an interest in me.
Well, that's not weird.
Good done.
That's not what we were just talking about, right? What were you gonna say? You were getting a little hand up. No.
Caused me to open up even though I didn't want to.
Oh, yeah. So we're gonna talk about that because that's actually gonna be related to something that Chris said earlier and he didn't know he set me up. What were you
It gave me a better understanding of what relationship I'm trying to build and who that person is and what their purpose is.
Love that.
It means you normally don't think about the conversation you have. So I understood that I was not only downloading the information, but also thinking about my next question at the same time.
Okay. That's what this whole thing is about, by the way. So again, I told you guys, you're either going to practice here or you're going to practice on your customers. So if you are practicing here on how to be able to naturally navigate those questions, then when you're with a customer and what you just said and what he just said, which is extremely important, you're going to have clarity. which means you're gonna know the real answer, right? Because how often do we take somebody's first answer, run with it like it's the truth all the way, and meanwhile, like there was some under the surface level reality that they didn't necessarily feel comfortable opening up about, or didn't feel that the trust was there yet to do it, and we're just like running full speed. Like, I'll give you an example. The customer walks into the open house. You're like, hey, what brings you here? And that's just like the worst question in the entire world to ask the open house, by the way. The freaking house brought them there, or the car that's in the front driveway that they drove there, right? Like worst answer ever, or worst question ever. So they come there, you ask your terrible question. They answer it with a very predictable customer defensive terrible answer, which is what? Just browsing, just looking. Do you have a realtor? What kind of answer do you think they're going to give that's going to give them the least amount of confrontation?
Yes.
Absolutely going to be that answer. You set it up. So you ask two horrible questions, you get two very predictable answers, and do you walk out of that house with a client? That went just the way we wanted. Right? You guys see?
Joe, I once had a client who was selling a property, and I remember asking them why they wanted to sell the property, and they said they were going to downsize. And I think I remember asking, what would downsizing do for you? And they talked about too much space, and they talked about freeing up some capital, and I let it die there. And then I found out after the fact that the whole reason they were doing this was because they wanted to adopt. And the proceeds were going to help them to adopt a child.
You were one question
I was
away.
one question away, and I didn't find that out until afterwards, but
Yeah.
like, how powerful could that have been?
Do you think that in the home inspection negotiations, if it's like we're $3,000 and an electric panel away from fixing this, or you can't adopt?
Yeah.
Right? Like the gravity changes tremendously. So that's the whole point of going 3D. And the reason I asked the answerers first is because the askers, I don't really care. You just have to do that. You have to do the going deep, and we'll talk about. I do want to ask, but I do care a little bit, because you're going to have to break the natural inclination, which is to take the first answer and run with it. You have to practice very intentionally hearing that answer and what you were describing, which is you feel very heard on the answering side, but you have to be very intentional about not filling that space unnecessarily when you're on the asking side. Because you don't get a chance to go deep and open up if she isn't asking the question to begin with, or filling the space awkwardly instead of letting you answer. Does that make sense? You can see how that changes tremendously? Yeah.
There's some self-realization in him going deep with me too, like something I didn't even think about. Like I kind of forgot about. He's asking me, what are my kids doing? And I listed it. And then he said, do they also do this, right? And I was like, oh yeah, there's this and this as well, really. So I think it's that self-realization that they haven't quite thought about.
They haven't even thought of it yet, right? The customer hasn't even thought of some of the answers. So when you ask the first level question and they don't have to use their actual brain, they can use a defensive mechanism to get you to go away. They haven't engaged the truth at all. Happens all the time. By the way, remember I told you the hardest job is this one. How was your day today? Fine. Yeah. What'd you do? I don't know. Okay, let's go 3D, right? Like, well, you know what I mean? Like, hey, what was a moment that really stood out today? Oh, I don't know. I guess like, when I got my boyfriend. What, your boyfriend? Right? Like, which is exactly what happened. Hey, look, they're 9, they might get married, I don't know. So you have to do that. You have to like resist the urge to go in and fill that space. That exercise you can do anytime. I hope somebody's getting their bravery like really ready to go, because we're gonna do the get to know you game here again for another 3 minutes. We might cut it down to 2 for the end one. And I want you to think of like, now you have a framework you can apply to the get to know you game that's gonna completely wide open. Again, set an unfairly high bar off the rip, but that's cool. Okay, so what happens here is step number 3 of the sales process. And this goes back to when, anybody ever heard the term buyers or liars?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's not true. Buyers are hiders. You just suck at finding. Are you a liar? If I asked you, are you a liar? Okay. If you went to a car dealership and you walked onto the car lot and the sales guy comes out of the sales room and it's like stalking across the lot, and he gets to you and he says, so what brings you here? Are you gonna tell the truth? Well, just browsing,
Right.
right? Because it's defensive. You see how that happens? So buyers aren't liars, they're just hiding. So the reason that's important is because step 3 is where we need to get through the hiding. And that is qualify or disqualify to do this. Now, one of the things that Chris said early on was when we're talking about leads, we eventually want them to be qualified. We want to find out what their motivations are. By the way, do you think that the 6 connecting questions and building trust help you understand what motivation they have? Great. Check mark. The problem is that if we qualify or disqualify too early on in the process, are we getting an authentic answer from them? Ooh, maybe not. Right? The same thing when they come into the open house and tell you to your face that they have a realtor, when all they really want is to not get spam next week and have you call them 14 times. And maybe they think that you're like a car dealership and you're going to ruin their credit by having them apply to 17 mortgage applications. They have no idea, but they just don't want any of it. And so they're going to lie to you and say, no, don't want anything, not interested, won't take a flyer, nothing, right? So the reason we need to build trust before we qualify or disqualify is because we need to make sure we're dealing with the truth, and we need to make sure we're dealing with authentic relationship. So that way, when we get to this place and we're asking, should we do business? Do we have an opportunity to do business with this person? That we're doing it with real answers. So I want you to start backloading your conversations with customers and holding the real estate stuff way later. And that's going to feel weird, potentially. But the reason you're going to do it is because by the time you talk about real estate, if you front loaded those 18 questions or any variation of those 6 connecting questions and going 3 deep and learning about them as a person, who they are, what they want, what's going on, why do they even want to move, any of those types of things. And then you get to this point and it's like, so like, what would it even look like for you to buy or sell right now? The answer that you might get will look very different than they walk in the door, the conversation starts, and the first or second or third thing that you say is, so are you looking to buy? Are you looking to sell? You see how that changes the whole dynamic, right? Like, great, different question to ask. Phil Jones does a really awesome job of these opening questions at open houses. The workshop that he did at the family reunion, where he embarrassed everybody. But it was like, one of the questions is like, so where did you come from to come to the open house? Which is a geographic to where question, but it completely disengages the defense mechanisms of like, so do you want to buy, do you want to sell, right? You're here for real estate. It starts with something of comfortability. Oh, I came from 3 streets over, I'm a nosy neighbor, right? Or I came from the other neighborhood, we're thinking of maybe coming to this neighborhood. Or go to like a who question, right? Hey, who did you hear about this open house? Or who did you hear about this open house from? Oh, nobody. I heard about it online. Okay, were you shopping specifically for anything online, or did it just come across your feed? Like what specifically caught, what messaging caught you? Now I'm a couple questions deep, and we're having a different conversation other than about them and their real estate. Make sense? Very powerful. Totally different. Okay. So step 1 is setting expectations, whatever that's going to look like. Step 2 is build trust. Step 3, qualify or disqualify. Step 4, and this is where salespeople mess up way too often, and we're not going to go deep into this because we're going to go to that in the role play, is we offer solutions. So before you close anybody, right, whatever the close looks like, if you're in a listing appointment or whatever, before you do that, you need to start to soft pitch some of your solutions. Because when you start to float your potential things that you can do or serve, like, hey, would it help if, by the way, did you hear, like, I actually did that with David in our conversation. So like, hey, what would that look like? What would being like a perfect real estate agent? Oh, okay. Oh, bi-monthly emails, right? So what I'm doing already in that conversation, I haven't actually closed for anything, but I'm starting to like pitch some solutions without commitment on my part until later when I can say, hey, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to move you to my mailing list. You're going to get, like, now I'm closing. But what you heard was like just sort of these soft pitches of set of solutions. So in a buyer consultation, it might look different. Then it will look different than in a listing presentation. But in a listing presentation, I want to challenge you. If you walk into a listing presentation with any material, hold off on even letting it out of your briefcase until that. So I'm gonna blow your mind. We buy, at Integrity First, we buy just about 400 houses a year. Our guys don't tour the house for the first 45 minutes. Our process is, no matter what the seller wants, they come in, and the seller, usually, sellers are trained just as well as we are, just differently. So the seller's like, okay, so you want to see the house? Almost always, first thing. Has that ever happened to you on a listing appointment? You guys want to do the walkthrough? Great. How to interrupt that, and you'll change the rest of the appointment. You know what? We're going to see the house one way or the other in a minute, but what I really want to do is I'd like to sit down. I want to learn a lot more about why I'm here, what's going on. So let's start with you first. Is that cool? Can we sit at your kitchen table for a few minutes, and then we'll get to the house later. Boom. Immediately pattern interrupts. Now you're going to sit down and you're going to go to this tool belt and you're just going to start to pull out the connecting questions. So tell me, why am I even here? Why? Go 3D. Go to, hey, this is a golden question. You can write this down. Doesn't matter what you're selling. Great question. In an ideal scenario, how would you like this transaction to go? Golden question. The answer to that question is the key to unlock you closing them. Because when you ask them, in an ideal scenario, how would you like this transaction to go? They're going to answer it with their ideal transaction. And if you're like, cool, so everything that you said seems like it's right in my wheelhouse as a real estate agent. I can do this, 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 and this. So I can do all of that. Do you see any reason why we shouldn't work together? That'll be the easiest close you've ever had. Okay?
Can you give us an example of that, how that works?
I just did. You mean like in terms of?
So like when I ask that, because if I come up to a client who may not be in real estate and I say, hey, can you give me an ideal scenario about how you want this transaction to go?
That's a closed-ended question, so don't ask it that way. In an ideal scenario, how would you like selling your house to go? It has to start with the open-ended, not can you, which is, they can, if I ask you, can you do this? You can answer with a yes or no. If I say, hey, what's your name?
Rich.
Rich? Rich. In an ideal scenario, how are you hoping this class would end?
Abruptly. No, I'm just joking. But it proves my point, because that's like, how do you answer that? That's the thing, like, well, I don't know, I would want you to sell my house, Rich.
Yeah, perfect.
Right?
Yep. Okay, so how do you want it to go so you can tell all your friends it was perfect? I just went too deep on you. So now, because like if you're like, well, so in it, like ideally, I want to be closed in 60 days. I don't want to do any repairs. Right now, it's like, oh man, I don't know if I can do all those things, right? Which is fine because now I'm flushing that out, and then we can address those things. Or if they're like, well, I'd really like to be out of the house by July. I'd like to get top dollar, and I think I have an idea, but I'm not sure. We can maybe talk about that. Like they're going to give you some of those pieces of that answer. Now, the reason, like the example that I just did there was the way you ask that question is going to determine the quality of the answer. If you ask it in an overly like vague way, they're not going to know what you're asking for, right? So like, hey, in an ideal scenario, how do you want this real estate transaction to go? Directly, verbatim, could lead to some weird things if they're not educated, right? But if you're right, but if they're like, if you're already like midstream on your thing, you know why you're there. Like they're there because they're thinking about doing real estate. You're all on the same page. And you say, okay, so listen, like you guys have me here for a reason in terms of the real estate. In an ideal scenario, how would you like this to go? Then they can start to go, and you can let them ideate that out, and then you can just check mark all those things, and the two things that'll happen actually. Number one is they'll start to pre-close themselves if it's stuff you can do. And two is it'll flush out objections if it's stuff you can't do. Because if they're like off the wall requests, right? Like I want to have cash in a briefcase in the next 7 days. We're gonna have to talk about that. That's something, right?
So you're using this as your qualifying question?
That's definitely a qualifying question.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, we want to ask those types of questions before we get down to these stages, because if we're starting to pitch solutions before we know what the customer's truth is, we're setting ourselves up for deals to go sideways, or the customer will, what will really happen. And if you ever have those customers where they just like, it feels like it was going okay and then boom, they ghost or something misses and then they're out, or you don't know where you lost the sale. That's oftentimes because you're pitching a solution that wasn't actually what they wanted, but they hadn't verbalized it yet. and you pitched it too early and then they're gone. Ever happen? Okay. So, two things, real quick. This is either going to happen in this format where it's like somebody who's like an open house is a great example where they're faster. Their time here in this funnel is going to be short because they're early or they're late in the buying process, meaning they are motivated, they're ready to go, and they're going to move towards closing fast. But then there's all those other people that are out here in cultivate. I would challenge that if you look at your command or your database, if you're looking at that and I say, couldn't you answer the question, who are they and what do they want? And how many of the 6 connecting questions could you pull out of the information in their command? If the answer is not that much, then what you just did was you got yourself a job description for what you need to do in your command, which is to go into all the people that are in cultivate and figure out the who, what, when, where, how, and why of them and fill in those blanks, because that will give you information on when those people should be coming out of the cultivate phase and starting to go into the buying phase or selling phase. Make sense? So like a takeaway right away for you guys is one, start to ask those questions and start to build that sales process intentionally. Number two, in your CRM, it's all about converting in your database, is you need to fill those blanks in. I should be able to log into your command, pull up Jimmy Smith, who you talked to back in February, and I should be able to look at that and say, who is he? What does he want? Go through the 6 connecting questions. Do I know why he's selling? Do I know what's significant about it? Do I know what the consequences are if he doesn't sell? Not being able to adopt, whatever, right? Can I go in there and answer those? Because if I can't, then I don't know what to call Jimmy about next time. And you know what my call sounds like? Hey, it's Joe. I'm just following up. Just checking in. Awesome. I'll be sure to answer your next call too, because it's just as valuable, right? As opposed to, hey, Jimmy, I was just checking to see how things were going with the decluttering at the property, because I know that was one of the things you were concerned about. You didn't want anybody in there until you thought you were ready. And I want to see if there were any resources that I could get you that would help make us hit our timeline, because I know that August is coming pretty quickly, and I don't want you to miss that timeline. Specific things that allow you to actually move them forward in the buying or selling. Totally different conversations that happen. Make sense? Okay, cool. Who's our last 2 volunteers? Who feels like they're more equipped now? These guys got up here with nothing. They're like, I'm in. 2 people, come on. Let's go. This is it. These 2 people, the 2 people that need to volunteer are standing between us and being done.
Justin.
Oh, Justin and Drew.
Justin and Chris Rad. Justin and Drew, the 2. There we go. You can be the customer.
All right, let's go.
We'll deal with you.
Come on, Justin.
Just because it's Justin.
All right, you're gonna be the salesperson. You'll be the customer.
Your kids' snacks not your bowl last night.
I ate one and it was not.
Look at each other, or do we just do this?
Yeah, you can do that. Look at this. We're going high level. 2 minutes,
Justin Stoller.
and we're gonna play the get to know you game. We're gonna get to know Drew. Ready? Go.
Oh, Drew, I'm Justin.
Hey, Justin.
So what brings you here today?
No.
Phone
We're
call.
not, we're not role playing. We are literally getting to know Drew.
Ah.
I'm gonna restart you.
It's a phone call, Joe?
No, this is literally just the get to know you game. The same way
Okay.
that we started. So we want to know who's Drew. What's important about her? Ready? Go. This is real play, not role play.
So Drew, how long have you been in real estate?
12 years.
And what got you into real estate initially?
I lost my job and I was shopping for a home, and my real estate agent asked me if I'd ever considered for real estate, and I had liked the process so far.
What did you do beforehand?
Did internet marketing, sitting behind a computer all day.
Oh, wow. And how has real estate changed your life from what internet marketing was?
Well, I make a lot more money, but I get to be with a lot of people and interact and help make impact on their lives.
And you being in real estate, who does that impact in your life?
Definitely affects my family, Adam and Mason, and the team that I lead.
Adam is your husband, and
Yes,
Mason's your son?
yes,
How old's your son?
13.
And what activities does Mason have going on?
This is easy. Mason, plays two sports. He is a soccer player and a lacrosse player, and he has both of those almost every day. And he still tries to go fishing every day.
And you have a busy career in real estate. How does real estate allow you to spend time with Mason and Alan?
I have a busy career in real estate, but I also believe in leveraging and delegating a lot. So it's helped me to free up my time to be able to spend time with them.
Now, what sort of leverage do you have in your business?
Gosh, what sort of leverage do I have in my business? In my business, I have a whole team of people. I have executive assistant, an operations director, a sales team, an ISA, lots of leverage in that way, and then some leverage in my home life as well.
Oh, wow. What kind of leverage in your home?
The cleaning lady is there too.
And that's been, and how does that affect your family as a whole?
All right, 2 minutes done. It's shorter than 3 minutes, right? That, by the way, if you're ever role playing, 2 minutes is way faster than 3. 3.
Three, it's a little weird.
Yeah. Great job. Let's give them a round of applause. So we got to see, like, you can actually hear it now in his questions. You could hear him chipping away through the 6 connecting questions, and that was cool. Let's give 2 observations of that, and then we're gonna call it a day. 2 observations of what you just watched.
I could see Drew getting more comfortable with the process as they were going through. You could just see the change.
Yeah. Do you know what actually also happened? Is that Justin also got more comfortable. So it sounded like scripted Justin for the first like 2 questions, and then like actually its tonality and pace sort of opened to a more natural vibe. And I was like, oh, these are just 2 people talking now. That was cool.
I did feel more comfortable. My observation was it was hard for me on that side to not reciprocate and want to ask those questions back to Justin. Like,
Which is good.
Which is good. That's what I mean. Like if you're actually talking to a lead, it becomes a conversation in that way. It's hard for me to not want to ask him. What about you? How about your kids?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Do you guys want your leads asking you questions about who you are in your life? Yes. Yes. Because that's connectivity. All right, let's get one more observation and then we're going to call it a day.
I thought it was interesting as I watched him do the same thing. He's turn. He really wanted to be
Just so badly.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's cool. So, yeah, that was awesome. Thank you for doing that. I know it's intimidating to get up and be vulnerable in front of the room. So, okay, guys, let me get 2 or 3 ahas from the entire day today. How was it?
Great.
Did anybody get any pictures? I've been like,
I got a couple.
you did. Okay, I've been terrible. By the way, I've been really working on smiling more while I talk. I apparently mean mug and like furrow my brow and was really grouchy. So hopefully I looked pleasant for you up here because I'm having fun even if my face is brown. So let's get 2 or 3 ahas from the day overall, and then we'll go off and make some money. Let's get them. I will volunteer you guys. Read the book shift. Read the book shift, please, guys. I think David volunteered to order you guys a couple copies, but I'm not 100% sure.
That's what I heard.
But it is absolutely the book of the market. Yeah.
Being a non-script person myself, I like the idea though of having like the structure for how the conversation should go.
Yeah. Very cool.
That's expectations of time frame and agenda.
Yeah, that's good.
I like the 3D. The who, what, where, when, how, we all know that, right? But you're 100% right that usually the first answer you get isn't the truth. It's surface level.
Yeah.
I don't say it's not a lie, but it's surface level. Where as you dig into that, you start uncovering the real motivation behind the person.
Yeah. Go out and have deeper, better quality conversations. Awesome. All right. We all good?
Yep.
No, 8081 is yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.